Be sure to subscribe to the channel and let's promote respect for the Royal Guard together. Let the whole world see how many of us there are. When an elderly woman fell on the road, the guard, defying protocol, stepped forward and stopped traffic. His actions stunned the crowd and became a symbol of true heroism. What happened next you won't forget. The morning sun bathed Buckingham Palace in its golden light. Its majestic walls, framed by vibrant flowers, drew an endless stream of tourists. The crowd buzzed with energy. Children laughed, parents pointed to the guards and explained their importance, and photographers clicked away, eager to capture the perfectly motionless figure of a soldier. A tall guardsman, clad in his shining uniform and iconic bearskin hat, stood at his post, embodying the traditions and dignity of the Royal Guard. His stillness was mesmerizing, as was the stern gaze fixed in the distance. "This is incredible. He doesn't even blink," a woman exclaimed, holding her child's hand. "Do you think they can move at all?" her companion joked, earning a soft laugh in response. The crowd hummed like a beehive. It was a mix of curious glances, admiration, humor, and even quiet skepticism. But this harmony was soon disrupted by an unexpected incident. An elderly woman, walking nearby, stumbled and fell directly onto the road. In her hands was a paper bag, which tore open, sending oranges rolling in all directions. "Oh!" her worried voice rang out. She tried to get up, but her weak legs trembled beneath her. The crowd gasped. Some froze, unsure how to react. Cars continued to move along the road, only a few slowing down slightly, but none stopping completely. "Is someone going to help her?" a man in the crowd shouted, but no one moved. The guardsman seemed unfazed by the unfolding events. His gaze remained fixed straight ahead, his posture impeccable. But those standing closest to him noticed a subtle tension ripple through his frame. His shoulders rose slightly, and the hand holding his rifle gripped it tighter. "He won't move, will he?" a girl whispered as she filmed the scene on her phone. "They never break protocol," replied a man with a serious expression, though a hint of doubt crept into his voice. The elderly woman made another attempt to stand, but her strength was failing. A car passing by narrowly missed her, drawing gasps from the crowd. "This is insane," a young mother exclaimed. "Someone needs to do something." But no one dared to act. All eyes turned to the guardsman. His immobility now seemed not just impressive, but almost unnerving. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his decision. The silence, broken only by the hum of engines, became unbearable. The crowd wondered if this symbol of unwavering discipline would take a step toward humanity. The crowd on the sidewalk watched with growing anxiety as the elderly woman lay on the road, her trembling hands unable to lift her body. Cars continued to pass by. Some drivers slowed down, but none stopped to help. One car came to an abrupt halt in front of her, honked loudly, and drove off without waiting. A few tourists pulled out their phones to record the dramatic scene. The whispers grew louder, turning into a murmur of quiet outrage. "Why isn't anyone helping her?" a man with a camera said indignantly. "This is awful," added a woman, holding her child's hand tightly. The guardsman, standing motionless at his post, could no longer remain a passive observer. In a barely perceptible motion, he took a step forward. The simple act instantly drew the crowd's attention. "Whoa, he's moving," whispered a young man in a tourist hat. The soldier, deliberate but resolute, crossed the boundary of his post. His confident stride and perfect posture made it clear that he was in complete control of the situation. Reaching the edge of the road, he raised his hand in a commanding gesture, signaling the drivers to stop. Cars began slowing down one by one. Drivers stared at him through their windshields, captivated by the grandeur of the guardsman in his traditional uniform. "Look, he's actually going to save her!" a tourist exclaimed. The guardsman, undistracted by the shouts or the cameras, made his way toward the elderly woman lying on the asphalt. His focus and discipline commanded respect even from the most cynical onlookers. The guardsman approached the elderly woman, kneeling on one knee, and carefully helped her to her feet. His movements were precise and confident, as though he was accustomed to such situations. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked quietly, breaking protocol that strictly forbids speaking while on duty. The woman, holding onto his hand, looked up at him with surprise and gratitude. Her voice trembled, but relief was evident. "Thank you, young man. I thought no one would help." The crowd on the sidewalk watched the moment with genuine awe. Applause began tentatively, but soon grew louder. Someone shouted, "Bravo! A true hero!" The scene felt almost cinematic. The guardsman in his formal uniform, the silent crowd, and the majestic Buckingham Palace, gleaming in the sunlight, all combined to create a moment of extraordinary significance. An officer approached them, his serious expression making the crowd hold its breath. Many assumed he would issue a stern reprimand for breaking protocol. However, instead, the officer gave an approving nod and said briefly, "Well done. Carry on." The guardsman stood, his head held high with pride and dignity, and escorted the elderly woman to the sidewalk. The crowd erupted into loud applause, and someone even shouted, "We need more people like him in this world." The woman, clutching his hand tightly, continued to thank him repeatedly. The day after the incident, the atmosphere at Buckingham Palace seemed different. As usual, a crowd of tourists had gathered at the famous White Line, but something had changed. People behaved more reservedly and with greater respect. There were no attempts to get too close to the guards or make jokes about their stillness. It seemed the actions of one soldier had made many reconsider their attitudes. Meanwhile, the internet was buzzing. A video of the guardsman stopping traffic to save the elderly woman had gone viral. Underneath the footage, users left comments filled with admiration. "A true example of dignity and humanity. Keep it up. Faith in humanity restored. The Royal Guard isn't just a tradition. It's an honor." Many remarked that the guardsman's actions reminded everyone of the importance of being not just a professional, but also a compassionate human being. News outlets ran stories about the event, and prominent figures shared the video with captions expressing their admiration. Back at the palace, everything seemed calm. Tourists quietly took photos of the majestic soldiers, as if realizing they were not just part of a spectacle, but guardians of centuries-old traditions. Among the crowd was a man with a young boy. They stopped in front of the same guardsman, who stood motionless, a symbol of honor and discipline. "Thank you for your service," the man said, looking at the soldier. "Your actions showed that sometimes being human matters more than following the rules." The guardsman gave a slight nod, maintaining his serious expression. The subtle gesture was met with applause. The crowd, as if on cue, began clapping, expressing their respect. People smiled, and some even wiped away tears. Sunlight bathed the palace, the guardsmen, and the gathered tourists. The moment felt symbolic. Human warmth and the light of tradition intertwined, restoring faith in honor, dignity, and kindness. The guardsman adjusted his bearskin hat and resumed his customary stance, ready to continue his service.